It is conference championship weekend in college football, and Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza will have the biggest spotlight of all the 2026 NFL draft prospects.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. As always, guys, it's Friday, which means we have to preview the action in college football, and it is championship weekend. Only champions, or those vying for a championship, will be playing this weekend. We're talking about those offensive prospects to watch, those statement makers, defensive prospects to watch as well, and then the sleepers, the guys that we're going to wake you up. The alarm clock is going to go off. You got to know about them in championship weekend. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Keith, there's nobody, and I mean nobody, that has a bigger spotlight in championship weekend than Fernando Mendoza. I feel like, just this is a guy going into, he's about to face the toughest defense that he's faced all season, right? He's played Oregon, he's played Iowa, he's played Illinois, he's played some really good defenses this year, Keith. But this is a different beast he's about to face with Caleb Downs and David Igbinosun and Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles and Caden McDonald. Like, they have Jermaine Matthews. They have so many players on this team. And I think for him, it's simple, man. We got to see if you can solidify that QB1 status, right? Like, I think for Fernando Mendoza, has had a great season. He's the only quarterback that truly has a Heisman moment this year. Like, he's technically, to me, he has three. The 3 game-winning drives are Heisman moments. They're all on the road. In games where if you don't score, you lose, and he's able to handle that. Now you got Goliath, right? This is an indoor game. I think it's in Indiana. You're facing Goliath. You're facing the Ohio State Buckeyes with the offense that can score points, a defense that can shut teams down. What are you going to be able to do in this game? Like, are you going to press? Are you going to play out of sorts? Or are you going to stay and be that calming presence for your offense? Make every read and throw correct, and not every read and throw, but majority of your reads and your throws correctly. Showcase the accuracy, the quick processing, and when you need to get out of the pocket, can you do it and be athletic enough to make plays and convert and move the chains with your legs like you've done all season? I need to see if he is going to play his game or allow Ohio State to force him into playing the game they want him to play, and that's throwing the ball in the double coverage, not seeing it quickly, not seeing it well, blurred lines. You don't want to be out there like you're a drunk driver. Like your vision is impaired. You need to be as sober as possible. Theoretically, guys, of course, he's not drinking during the game. You understand what I'm saying? You need him to be able to see it well, Keith, because this is a game that you don't want to get out of hand. Like, you don't want to be punching from behind. You want to be even keel, fourth quarter, tied game, and you're going to say, hey, I've been here before. Julian's saying you haven't. That's the type of game you need this to be if you're Indiana. And I'm really looking at the spotlight for Fernando Mendoza. Nobody is under more pressure than him.
Yeah, I'll say this, DP. I don't want to say this. I want to ask this. What is an appropriate stat line for Fernando Mendoza, Indiana, going against Ohio State? Because I think, we always want to put these things in context, right? And I always say this, right? I'm not expecting you to throw for 4 or 5 touchdowns and 400 yards, right? But what is a proper stat line, you think, for a quote-unquote QB1 going against, let's say, the most talented defense in college football?
Yeah, I think for me, Keith, it's going to be realistic. You know what I mean? I'm not, like you said, no 300-400, you don't have to throw for 350, 400 yards. But I definitely say 280 yards, 250 to 80 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns, no turnovers. Like, don't turn the ball over. Manage this game the right way, right? Like, Kurt Signetti wants to run the ball too. They want to punch you in the mouth. Now, this defensive line, with Caden McDonald at nose, I don't know how well this run game is going to get off the ground, but they do run some gap stuff and they do run zone. So maybe you can get the zone game working. Michigan did have success with some lesser known running backs. Last weekend they had success running the football. The problem was they couldn't push the ball down the field. For me, with Fernando Mendoza, you can get the run game going. Can you take that shot down the field one-on-one? Because Matt Patricia will give it to you. He will leave his corners on an island, and he will give you those one-on-ones. Can you make the throw? Because he did that. It was against who they play last week? Purdue. He didn't have the great game, but like the film was a little bit. It gave me a little bit more context in the stat line, and that back shoulder fade between him and Elijah Surratt. It's always there. If he gets one-on-one, and they got space, he's going to throw it. He's going to take the shot that Underwood isn't comfortable taking consistently. Mendoza is. So I think 250, on the high end, 280, 2-3 touchdowns total, no picks. The key to me, Keith, don't turn the ball over. Make the smart decisions, make the right reads. Every single drive ends in the kick.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I was going to head with this, with the stat line. The most important number is 0, and that's no turnovers, right? Like, you have to find a way to deal with this, because the turnovers, in my opinion, for the most part, let's say 90%, right? You still got tipped balls and drop passes and things like that. So for the most part, like, interceptions are a result of misreading defenses and being tricked out of coverage or making bad decisions, right? And if you're going to be QB1 in the draft class, we just want to know that you're going to make good decisions in chaotic situations, because most likely you're going to go to a chaotic situation. So I like that. And I like the fact that you mentioned Elijah Surratt, DP, because that was one guy I was going to talk about, just as far as showing up, right? You got David Igbinosun on one side. You got Caleb Downs. Like, go beat those guys, right? And none of us expect you to be a 4-3 athlete, right? But if you can show you can win like a Keenan Allen or, some of these other, I think Devontae Adams was a 4-5 flat guy coming out of Fresno State, right? So you show that you just naturally know how to win. Guess what? We got another wide receiver we got to talk about within the top 50 picks. So I'm right there with that, DP. I'm gonna pick a guy that I've been on this train for a while, and we'll see how this goes, because he's only a redshirt sophomore. But Duke has backed their way into the ACC championship. And with that being said, as the rules are currently constructed, Duke can make the playoffs. And I believe with their 8-4, 7-5, somewhere around
7-5, they'll be 8. I think 75, they'll be 8-5 if they win this game.
Yeah, 7-5, DP. They have an opportunity to go to the playoffs, and they have a rematch against Virginia, right? They play Virginia, and this sets up interestingly, because usually when you get those rematches, right, one team comes out a little bit stronger than the other, and it's usually the team that loses. They had Virginia at home, I believe, and they lost. They lost 34-17. So Virginia put it on them quite a bit. Darian Mensah, very average game, 50% completion percentage, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, right? Didn't hurt his team, didn't necessarily help his team either. But this is a guy that and people who's followed my mock drafts, I put in the first round. You're talking about arm talent on arm talent on arm talent. I think this young man can really throw and sling the football. So I'll be looking to see what noise can he make, right? Is this finally a moment where he can come out in front of the bright lights? Because I think it's been minimal opportunities that Duke has even had. I mean, you soft circle, or the Georgia Tech game was one. Then you soft circle the Clemson game, but by the time you played Clemson, that was a wrap, right? And the ACC has been the ACC has been weak overall. So do you get them in the ACC championship game and you're able to throw for 3-4 touchdowns and get people to go back to the stat line and say, wait, this Duke quarterback has thrown 28 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions the entire year, right? So I'm gonna go with Duke quarterback Darian Mensah. Just to see if they can continue to just back their way into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be a big. I know they were happy when SMU lost to Cal last Saturday night, and everything last weekend. So I think for Darian, this is either going to be, hey, I'm coming. This is my coming out to the NFL draft party, or this is my, hey, who's the highest bidder and who has the talent that can get me in drafted top 10, top 5 in 2027 type of game.
Yeah, and what could be interesting is, I know there's been noise that their head coach, why am I blanking on Penn State's? I mean, Duke's head coach, Manny Diaz. He's been linked to the Penn State head coaching situation. So do you get a Manny Diaz, Darian Mensah pairing and Penn State, right? And Penn State finally has a quarterback that can go, and that's the place that you go. You're talking about elevating your draft stock and putting the bright lights on yourself.
Absolutely. The big time school, a lot of lineage there, big time conference in the Big Ten. Hey, you get some receivers, get some more receivers in there. You can cook, right? Get the run game going. They got a nice tight end, young tight end to ball with. Maybe pull some of the playmakers that he likes from Duke and bring them with them as well. So I like that, Keith. I'm gonna close this thing out with, got to go to the big fish. Ty Simpson. You know what I mean? Like this is a game where they played Georgia, similar to Duke and Virginia. This is a rematch, Keith, from week 5. You know what I mean? And in that game against Georgia, it was on the road. Ty Simpson was 24 of 38, 276, 2 passing touchdowns. They end up winning that game. Georgia came storming back. They won by 3. Very close game at the end. This is essentially going to be this game is at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, so it's essentially a Georgia home game and everything. So go out there and play better than you have. Let's find some consistency. Let's get back to playing consistent football and light this secondary up. They've been susceptible to big plays all season. He had a deep ball to Jerm Bernard last weekend against Auburn. He's got to start hitting the deep ball. He's overshooting it, and he's struggling with the trajectory on those deep passes. Let's get that fixed and corrected, because Georgia's going to give you the opportunity to chuck it deep. Can you connect? If he connects on a couple of those, he can blow this game out the water.
Yeah, DP, I think the SEC matchup, right? Georgia versus Alabama goes to the same. The more things change, the more they stay the same, right? We get Georgia and Alabama, despite NIL and coaching changes and everything else, we still get Georgia versus Alabama in the SEC championship. But DP, let's do this, man. Let's switch from the offensive side of the football to the defensive side of the football, man. Talk about these defensive prospects that everybody needs to keep their eye on for this upcoming weekend of championship weekend, right? Conference championship weekend of 2026 NFL draft prospects. Let's talk about this coming up next.
NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. And we talk about player props and heating up. The NFL draft will be here before we know it, and you can get your early betting odds done on who will be the number 1 overall pick. Whether you want to go quarterback like Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, or Ty Simpson, or you want to go defense like edge rusher, linebacker, Ruben Bain, and Arvell Reese. You can do all of that. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Defensive prospects that you need to be watching during conference championship weekend. Keith, we both, I think, mentioned his name, when we're talking about the offensive players. Davison Igbinosun, the number 1 corner who wears number 1 for Ohio State. He's going to be matched up against Elijah Surratt probably more times than not. And this guy's had a good season this year. Last year he was heavily flagged and penalized for grabbing and holding receivers down the field and just being too physical, too handsy at times. And this year he's done a better job of that. Now, against Michigan, I think he was called for 2 DPIs or holding. Michigan had some success targeting him, which to me opens up that floor for maybe a big game from Elijah Surratt. Because Elijah Surratt, Donovan McCulley, who I highlighted, had a pretty solid game against Ohio State for the few pass attempts they were able to complete. Yeah, you're going to have a different situation against Indiana. It's not going to be snowing inside the dome. Like, it's going to be clear air, clear skies in there. And one thing about it, they leave you on the island. Like, can you not get called for DPI or holding? Can you lock down Elijah Surratt? Like, because that's going to be the key to it all. Omar Cooper is a space player, like manufactured touch guy. Indiana gets him the football. But that passing offense truly runs through Elijah Surratt more times than not. In terms of, listen, if Fernando Mendoza comes to line of scrimmage and he sees single high, he's looking over there to see, okay, what hash is that safety closer to? If you're not closest to Elijah Surratt, they're making the check and they're going down the field. And that back shoulder fade, stuff like that, you want to see, can Davison Igbinosun play with enough control to be able to stop himself and stop his momentum, play the back shoulder fade, make everything tight window. Can you consistently do that, especially if you're in man-to-man? Because Elijah Surratt is a good route runner who plays with good strength and physicality as well, and the ball skills. Big time moment for him to stamp himself, because we talk about corners, Keith. Davison Igbinosun has been relatively quiet in terms of the draft space. No one's talked about him much at all, but he's had a good season.
Yep, I like that, DP. And for him, I think going down the stretch, right, there's going to be consistency, because obviously whether they win or lose this game, they're going to make the playoffs, right? It's just going to be a matter of if they have a first round bye and then a matchup, or they have to come out the gate swinging against another team. But I look at this, and I think it's for him is going to be consistency as far as the Terrion Arnold conversation that we had, right? As far as does he, when he enters the NFL, what version do we get, right? Do we get the last year where he was technically sound, or do we get the year before where he's reverting back to some old things? So I think that'll be the conversation around Davison Igbinosun. DP, I'm going to go to the Big 12 championship game, and I'm going to pull two defensive prospects, their teammates, right? Texas Tech. I'm going to go David Bailey, and I'm going to go Romello Height. So with David Bailey, DP, I may be on a hill by myself, right? Because a lot of people really, really, really like David Bailey. I like David Bailey. I don't love him yet. For me, he is, and this guy has been productive in the NFL, but I just paint him in this light. I think David Bailey is a pass rush guy right now. Like, if I drafted him, I would probably put him as a pass rush specialist, which has value, which because I remember I wasn't as high on Will McDonald either, but Will McDonald has been productive in the NFL, right? Like, come in, like he'll have spurts where he's really dominant. I think the same thing is for David Bailey. That's why I say I like, don't love. But I'm interested to see how he matches up against BYU, and they just played each other, I think, a few weeks ago, and watched that film. And obviously BYU, they're gonna muck it up, right? It's a tough, physical, gritty game. For me, it's gonna go a long way, just for, okay, how do I feel like he can handle the run, right? And I even think about guys like David Ojabo. Wow, remember when he was the talk of the town a couple of years ago? That's crazy how that happened. And he would have been a first-round pick, but I was always concerned about the run game stuff, right? Being able to set the edge in the run game. But the other teammate, Romello Height, this is a bold statement at this very moment, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think he has more first-step explosiveness than David. Like, I think
I agree with that.
You agree with that? Like, I think this guy is lightning quick. I just think that some of his opportunities are happened because he plays stacked linebacker too in his defense, right? Like, he mixes and does some different things, but he's still sitting at 8.5 sacks. Watching these two guys, and what I'll do is once we get closer to the draft, right, I'm in deciphering what I want to do with them. I'm probably going to pit them against each other, right? Like, okay, cool. Like, this pass rusher versus this pass rusher, right? And probably I'll let grade Romello as a stack linebacker, stand-up linebacker, but look at both of those guys as edge rushers and see who I like more, because they do different things at a high level. But I think it's very interesting. And if I had to give them both grades, I would probably put high second-round grades on both of them, somewhere around there. So I'm looking at both of those guys.
Yeah, I think big time game for him, because LJ Martin, they will feed him. BYU will give him the ball 20 plus times out of the backfield, and try to keep you off of Bear Bachmeier. Because when they played, like David Bailey, when they played BYU a couple weeks ago, he had 4 QB hits and 3 pressures in this game. He didn't have a sack, but he was constantly in the backfield, and that's going to be the big thing. You gotta be as balanced as possible. BYU, Kalani Sitake, their head coach, has signed a big extension, so he didn't become the new head coach at Penn State. So they keep him, at home. This is a game where, because honestly, again, everything is tied to making the committee make difficult decisions. Because when you play the first time, Texas Tech won. That's why Texas Tech is at 4. Well, what if BYU wins this game? Right now, BYU wins, and they're the Big 12 champion. There's a chance that both of these teams make the top 12 and they're in the playoffs.
You have to put both of them in, right? Because Texas Tech, But Texas Tech has a loss already, right? They have
Yeah,
a
it was
loss.
Arizona State. I think that was
Arizona
their only
State.
loss. Yeah.
So a 2-loss Texas Tech team versus a 3-loss Alabama team. Who do you go
Yeah.
with? Right? And I think that's what you were talking about when you're talking about making the tough decisions, right? Like
That and
who
a 2-loss Notre Dame, a
Mhm.
2-loss Miami. Like one of these good teams are going to be left out. I think Bama's going to still be in because the committee is like, yeah, we like the whole not penalizing a team for losing a conference championship game. I think one of those, the Miami and Notre Dame, I think one of those teams are going to be the first team out, and then they're going to knock them out of the top 12 if they keep. If Bama lost, and let's say Texas Tech lost, I think both of them make it in, and they only allow either Miami or Notre Dame to stay in. One of those teams getting booted out, but you're going to need these two edge rushers. Like you're going to have to stop the run first, then get after Barrett Bachmeier. You can't do the first thing. You can't do that first because LJ Martin will have a big day. Keith, I'm going to close this thing out. We talked about Ty Simpson, CJ Allen, one of the best. And again, people hate linebackers, but you need to look at this linebacker class, man. Like this linebacker class is legit, and he's one of the best in the country, man. And I think being the quarterback of this Georgia defense in the front seven, getting guys lined up, being a smart, instinctive player, good athlete, physical downhill guy. I've been talking about him since summer scouting. Keith, I'm looking forward to seeing just how that chess match between him and Ty Simpson. Can you take away the run lanes and the scramble ability of Ty Simpson? But also Georgia will blitz him. They will send him up the A gaps in a heartbeat, and not even hey, let's mug it and show pressure. It's hey, I'm 5 yards off. I'm in my normal stance, and then ball snap, and I'm firing downhill, and I'm hitting the A gap, right? Like they do a lot of different things with him, but also he can cover out the backfield too. Like he's a good cover guy as well, zone cover and man coverage. So definitely a prospect to highlight, and he's to me the best defensive player in that front seven. Him and Christian Miller. Looking forward to seeing how CJ Allen plays.
Yo, DP, this is conference championship weekend, right? And I don't think there's no better way to roll out the sleepers to watch, right? The 2026 NFL draft sleepers to watch and conference championship weekend. We're going to talk about the guys that could potentially make some championship winning plays that are flying under the radar coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, and thank you for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, number one sports podcast network in America, all because of you. The alarm clock is going off. You're being woken up. You're not happy about it, but you need to get happy about it because we're telling you about the sleepers to watch during conference championship weekend. Keith, we talked about him a couple of times already on the show, but Elijah Surratt, like – in this wide receiver class, at times, I mean, he missed like 3 games, I think, due to a hamstring. It's crazy. Like hamstring seems like they've been snatching up a lot of players this year, whether it's NFL, college football, like Jordan Tyson had a hamstring injury. He had, Elijah Surratt hurt his hamstring. Hamstring's been getting after guys this season, Keith. But I look at Elijah Surratt, and in the class that has a lot of talent at the top of the wide receiver rankings, this is a guy that sometimes is forgotten. And when you do miss games, you become forgotten. But he's an outstanding player in wide receiver. And going up against Davison Igbinosun, talked about it earlier and talk about it again from his side. Can you win the one-on-one? Can you win with your routes, separate, especially with the fact that sometimes Patricia will send pressure. And we've seen that teams, and I want people to understand, Indiana's offense gets pressure, like simulated pressure, blitzes. That happens quite frequently. It's not an indictment on Mendoza. It's because that offensive line struggles with passing things off. We talked about with Romello, right? Like Purdue sent one, and you got a defensive end unblocked. You got 3 guys blocking two linebackers. It was like, well, what happened there, right? So they have some communication issues. And if you send a 2 linebackers and an edge, somebody's going to get free. And I think Patricia's probably going to dial up a Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, attacking the line of scrimmage and blitzes, which will lead the corners in one-on-one situations. Elijah Surratt, can you win on that slant? For you and Fernando Mendoza, see the pressure early. You communicate. Can you beat Davison Igbinosun or Jermaine Matthews? 2 guys who are a little handsy. They both got called for penalties against Michigan's receivers last weekend. So can you win and win consistently for all 4 quarters. And again, on the back shoulder fade, can you separate at the top of that route, come back, make the play, get your feet in bounds, and create an explosive 20, 30, 40 yards down the field because you know that connection that you have with your quarterback. This is a game to where, for me, it's like this is a big spotlight, Keith. And wow, I gave a lot of spotlight to Fernando Mendoza because he's in that QB1 conversation. This is how you raise your draft stock as a wide receiver to where people start looking at you like, oh, I think you might have mentioned them a while back, like a Puka Nacua style for Elijah Surratt. You said Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams. Can you be that type of guy where it's like, hey, he may not run the 4-4-4-3, but he still gets open consistently?
Yep, 100%. I'm gonna go with this, man. I'm gonna go with some defensive prospects in the SEC championship game, all from Alabama. I'm gonna look at linebacker Deontay Lawson. And to our listeners, this is a guy, a young man that I had a 2nd-round grade on last year, and I believe towards ACL in the last game of the season, second to last game of the season. And that's why he's back. Other than that, I would have expected him to go in the first 2 rounds. Young man was that talented, that skilled, things like that. But the 2 guys I really want to highlight is this safety combination of Bray Hubbard, safety from Alabama, who seems to just make plays and always around the football, and then Keon Sabb, right? And the reason I say this is because both guys are going to have to be involved in a run game because, Georgia, I'm about to say Will Muschamp, Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart, he's going to want to establish the run, right? And in this, what this Kirby Smart or Georgia offense is, they just remind me of the 2010-ish Alabama teams, right? Remember the years before it was the Heisman quarterbacks and it was the Tuas and the Bryce Youngs and the Mac Jones. It was the Greg McElroys, right? It was the AJ McCarrons, right? And it was the Chance Warmacks and the Eddie Lacy's of the world, right? That's how they won championships. I think that's where this Georgia football team is. So they're going to want to be physical up front. I look at these safeties to really establish themselves in both the run game first, and then also they're going to have to cover it. And Hubbard is a guy that I want to see him in coverage a little bit more because he's such a low hole player. He's almost like an extra linebacker most of the times. I want to see him and what he's able to do. If he's put in, especially, I didn't think about this, but the tight ends that Georgia has, right? Talking about Lawson Lucky, Oscar Delp, they're going to be put in complex situations because these are when they put out 12, 13 personnel on the field, that's not 13 personnel to run. Sometimes they put out 13 personnel to get you in a base look and then say, you know what, your linebackers are not athletic enough to run without safeties, right? Your safeties, your linebackers are not athletic enough to run without tight ends. Your safeties are not athletic enough to run without tight ends. So I look at it from a schematic point, and I think those 2 players are going to be very important to this football game just because of what Georgia likes to do offensively.
No, 100%. I think, like you said, when you talk about Alabama, those defenders, I expect them to kind of play some crowd, like just taking away the short stuff, forcing the quarterback to throw the ball in the middle of the field, something he's not really. He doesn't like to toss the ball in the middle of the field in congestion like that. Force him into some of those reads. Gunnar Stockton, I think he's like 6 foot. I think my comp friend was like Sam Howell, or that was just less arm and everything. And he can run. So you got to keep him in the pocket, force him into some complex situations. Keith, I'm going to close this thing out. I want to talk about Cam Cook. For those who don't know, Jacksonville State running back, they're playing Kennesaw State, the Owls. On Friday, on Friday tonight, matter of fact, and Jacksonville State running back Cam Cook, 5'11", 200 pounds. Keith, let me tell you something. 276 carries on the season, 1,574 yards rushing, 15 rushing touchdowns, only four fumbles on the season. PFF has him with 94 missed tackles forced this season. Like, this young man can play. Like the like almost 100 missed tackles forced is nuts. But watching a little bit of tape on him, I'm like, all right, this kid can play. Like, he's got contact balance, good footwork, he's good vision. He was at TCU for 2 years, and then he transferred out, and now he's at Jacksonville State, and he's helped lead this rushing attack. Their quarterback is also another guy, I think Creel, I think is his name. He can run for 100 yards as well. He's a dual threat type of quarterback, but I need him to make sure, let Cam cook. I don't need you to be taking too many carries from the running back. Get the running back the ball. Let him go out there and do his thing. Should be it's a fun game. Kennesaw State got like 9 wins on the season and everything. I think they just came up to like the FCS level, whatever.
Yep.
So shout out to them in their first year doing it. I think it's gonna be a fun game. This should be a high scoring game tonight. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing. I think it's number 4 for Jacksonville State in their red and white. Looking forward to see how dominant of a game he can have tonight. But in this running back class, I think a lot of things are still open. And this is a guy that he's got one more year eligibility, Keith. I mean, you ran for 1,500 yards. Like, I don't know if you come back after that. I'd say go to the NFL, and especially in this class or whatnot.
Yeah.
Next year's class is going to be loaded with running back talent. But shout out to Cam Cook, man. Looking forward to him. And then keep your eye on number 1, Amari Farrell, safety from Indiana. Him and D'Angelo Pons in that secondary, hands will be filled dealing with Cardinal Tate and Jeremiah Smith. Can they play too high shell, try to force some interceptions, some bad throws from Julian Sanders?
Yep, DP, man, this is bittersweet, man. We say championship weekend because it means we get some really good football, then we head to the playoffs, but it means we're one step closer to the end. And it feels like we just started the college football season, man. So definitely bittersweet. That's when I start thinking about it. I start getting a little sad, right? I have a mixed range of emotions heading into championship week. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast all by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all can talk to us. We like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On Monday's show, we're going to talk about those money makers, the bag fumblers, and hand out our game balls of the week. So come and join the conversation again on Monday on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.